There we go. So my name is Josh Payne, and I am a relatively recent addition to the team here at Quantopian. I'm in product management. I joined about 2 months ago, and I am a product manager, and my realm of responsibility here is our data business and data in general. I'm so broadly working to incorporate more and more data sources into Quantopian. I'm joined today by Alyssa, who you all likely know. And in terms of what we're going to cover here today, we've got sort of one main topic, fundamentals. But before we dig into fundamentals, I'm going to do a quick introduction to Quantopian and algorithmic investing. So for those of you who've been on webinars before, familiar with Quantopian, I apologize. This might be a little repetitive or boring to you. You can either sort of zone me out, or you can judge me and compare me how I do relative to other Quantopian webcast presenters. So we'll do a quick introduction to Quantopian, what it is to be a quant. Then we will dive down into an introduction as to what fundamentals are and sort of the background on what we've done. And then we'll go into a live demo, and I can show you some of the key elements of fundamentals in action. And then after that, we will sort of dive down into some of the more advanced topics if we have time, and open things up for Q&A in the question pane. So with that in mind, let's get going. So what is Quantopian? Quantopian is a crowdsourced quant hedge fund. What does that mean? Well, we've got sort of the world's first algorithmic investing platform built in the cloud. What that means is that we've really lowered the barriers to the world to allow lots and lots of people the ability to write algorithms for stock investing. We provide backtesting and all sorts of other infrastructure so that you as a quant or you as a programmer can come up with a strategy, code it up, and actually execute it, test it, and then execute it in a live trading environment. We've got over 28,000 members of our community today. So that means not only do we provide that infrastructure, but we provide a really welcome and open community for folks to get help, collaborate, work with each other, and generally help out. So if you're new to the community, feel free to pop into the forums. There are lots of community members who are willing and always happy to help folks out as they're getting started or as they're iterating on their ideas. What it means to be a crowdsourced quant hedge fund, I can explain it sort of quickly. There are other webinars that we've been running that you can go listen to the recordings of to get more details. But in short, from that community of thousands and thousands of quants, we'll hopefully be finding some that who are highly performing, and we're going to create a hedge fund and take those quants and their algorithms and start to use them with much greater levels of capital. And we're really excited about this turn of events and this direction. If you want to learn more, I'd encourage you to listen to the webinars and read up on our site, and you can learn more about what's going on in that direction. Algorithmic investing is, for those unfamiliar, it's essentially autopilot for your investments. Rather than executing and making the decisions day to day, minute to minute as to what you'll be trading, there's a software program, an algorithm making those decisions, choosing when and what to buy and sell. Choosing what is actually a really good piece to think about here inside our fundamentals discussion, because that will come up later in the fundamentals discussion. But choosing what and when to buy to sell is what algorithmic investing is all about. And why is it better? Why is it a good idea? First, it's great to be able to test against historical data with an algorithm. Quantopian itself provides over 12 years of historical market data for you to test out your algorithm once you've coded one up. The other thing that I really like is this third point on the slide. You're able to make your investing decisions are made based on data and don't get that sort of pesky human element involved in human emotions. So if it was a good idea from the outset, your emotional state doesn't have as heavy an influence as to what you're buying and selling on a daily basis. Why don't more people do it? Well, there's a lot of infrastructure and data and cost associated to being able to do it. People were able to do it and are able to do it on their own, but Quantopian is really lowering the barriers, lowering the levels of investment and infrastructure that an individual would need to do. Historically, most algorithmic investing, or almost all algorithmic investing, was done inside institutions and hedge funds because there was a lot of investment needed, a lot of infrastructure tooling that was needed, a lot of data. So this pricing data isn't cheap, for example, and that sort of blocks the everyday individual who has an interest in algorithmic investing from getting involved unless they're highly motivated. So we're bringing down those barriers, and we're bringing and furthermore, the world of investing tends to be highly secretive, and we've been breaking down some of those walls and encouraging collaboration and openness in our forums and other places. With that, we can jump into the fundamentals section. What are fundamentals? So fundamentals, most companies make quarterly, or almost all public companies make quarterly or annual reports of their financial performance out to the public. They make filings on a quarterly and annual basis, and fundamentals are derived from these filings. They are financial measures used to assess and analyze the health and prospects of these companies. Some examples might be earnings per share, the market cap, dividends per share, price PDE ratio, all sorts of metrics. What we have done at Quantopian is contract with Morningstar, a data provider, to get access to their fundamental data. We have over 670 separate metrics for over 8,000 different U.S. equities in our database that are now available to you as the Quantopian user in our backtester. So taking a step back, previously we only made available, or primarily made available, market data, price data, open close, volume, the minutely tick data that you're familiar with if you've used our platform. Analyzing using that data is known as technical analysis. What we've now made possible with this fundamental data is what's known as fundamental analysis. So we're really excited about doing that. So the core use case that we envisioned and built for, the primary use case that we built for, was using fundamentals to define a tradable universe. When you're using the platform, you have to sort of predefine or define up front what securities, which stocks you're going to be, your algorithm will be handling. Previously, you needed to either define that based on a dollar volume basis, or manually choose that universe. Now we can use fundamentals to make that definition. So you can say to yourself, hey, I want my algorithm to handle anything with a market cap greater than $1 billion, PDE ratio over 3, and set the criteria that you want your algorithm to follow for setting that tradable universe. That's sort of the primary use case that we built for. And you can build using fundamentals that a cross-sectional query or cross-sectional grouping of stocks for use in setting your universe and setting your tradable universe. We're really excited, and we think this is a big deal because it's another step in lowering the barriers and exposing different information and tools that otherwise institutions and hedge funds had a de facto monopoly on. We're the first to make programmatic access available to anyone who comes onto our platform. Previously it was very difficult or costly to get fundamentals data. Now you can access it programmatically for use inside the platform if you're a user of Quantopian. So with that in mind, let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into the demo. Let me pop over to my browser and we can get going. So here we've got a simple demo algorithm, similar to the one that was posted when we announced fundamentals. And the first thing that you'll see as in terms of additions to the product as part of this fundamentals rollout is a brand new method called before trading start here. It's on the same level as initialize or handle data. It is and it is an optional method. You pass it the context, similar to initialize, and it runs on a daily basis, and the timing of its run is before trading starts. So typically this will run sometime before the opening of the market. There are sort of three key steps that we take here inside before trading start when you're using get fundamentals. Now, you can use this before trading start for whatever other purposes you could dream up. If you've got other logic that you want to execute or code to run inside that time period and pass through to the context. But the main thing that we've built it for here is, when using it with fundamentals, is sort of the following three steps. The first is to call this get fundamentals call. So get fundamentals returns a data frame, and what it's doing is querying our fundamentals database for the fundamental metrics that you wish. So we can go through and say, hey, I want to get the PE ratio, I want to get the market cap, I want to get the earnings per share, I want to get earnings. There's also a sort of Morningstar specific metric here called sector code, where they assign equities to different sectors. These are the columns that are going to get returned. They're going to get returned to you, or the rows rather, that are going to get returned to you in this data frame. And you can define any of those. So I could go and define a new one here and say I want sort of regular earnings from the income statement as well. You note when we're adding that new column, the tooltip comes up once we've indicated to the IDE that we're looking for a fundamentals field, and it gives us a searchable listing. So we can start to search for the right metric out of those 670. So we've got easy search, so you don't have to leave the IDE if you've got an inkling as to what you're looking for. Next, we can in turn set our filters. The filters will set the criteria that you wish to use for selecting the companies that you want to choose in your cross section. So in this case, in this simple example, we're filtering based on a PDE ratio, so greater than 20, a PDE ratio under 50, and a sector code of 311, which I believe is technology. So that will give us a subset of the equities listed in Morningstar's database. In turn, we can also prescribe how we're going to order the results coming back from the database. And if you haven't caught on at this point, we're using an ORM here to access the database. It's an ORM called SQL Alchemy, and this is the syntax that SQL Alchemy has defined for us. So you can go and check out the the documentation for SQL Alchemy, we provide that. We provide links off to the SQL Alchemy documentation in our own documentation. So we can order it. In this case, we're going to go highest to lowest, descending order, and then we can also set a limit in terms of the top number of stocks that we want to return from this query. You need to be careful because we still enforce universe sizes here with fundamentals. So if it comes back and asks for, if you're asking for greater than 200 stocks or so, you're likely to get a size of universe error. So once this data frame comes back, there are two other steps. The second step here is to, before we go there, let me just show you in action how the get fundamentals call works. IDE will help to sort of autofill that, and once we type out get fundamentals, the IDE is going to give you sort of the baseline skeleton structure for building another one of these queries. If you wanted to build one from scratch and you wanted to build one on your own, you can put in, you can start to build it yourself. Start to sort of build out your filters here as well. And that's an easy way. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to get going with that get fundamentals call. Once you've got that data frame that comes back, this is a pandas data frame. Once that comes back, you can use that resulting list of stocks, list of securities to come back and set your universe. And this is an alternative way to what we previously had to setting your universe. The last sort of key step that I like to encourage, and I think most folks like to do, is taking that data frame and also adding it into the context, so that later on in your algorithm, this data is also available for use inside your logic. So I've set a code break right here on line 44 in the debugger, and I'll build the algorithm, and we can just go poke around and look at what that data frame that comes back from get fundamentals looks like. You can see this is sort of the base level data frame. You can see all the separate metrics that come back. They've come back for each of the what I did in that case was I limited it to 5 results. So we're seeing results for 5 securities. We can take a look at each of those columns, what they are, what those securities are. In this case, it's these 5 with the SIDS here and the ticker. If we're, for example, interested in only one of these metrics at some point, we can pull out a single series and see, for example, the earnings per share from that data frame, and use that as you see fit or desire. So that's the quick demo. Let me hop back into the slides. We didn't need the backup. So the key concepts there. Before trading start is new. It's optional, but it's where you will make the call to get fundamentals and access the fundamental data. You'll probably want to, once you do make that call, you probably want to add that get fundamental, the resulting data frame, add that to your context. And then critically, you want to use that to update your universe so that you can update your tradable universe. And lastly, I know it took me a while as a new user of Quantopian to discover that debugger, but that debugger is your friend especially if you want to go poke around and look at the resulting data frame and start to get familiar with the data that's coming back as you're developing your algorithm. Couple of advanced topics or other things that might be on your mind. So what we're doing here for using this fundamental data is we've done our best to build a point-in-time database. So especially for backtesting, it's important to have to estimate what would we know at that point in time. Yes, we don't want to have a hindsight bias in place. So the get fundamentals call won't return information that you wouldn't have had access to at that particular point in time in the past. So each of, you can get a feel for and investigate, and we surface sort of the knowledge dates for each of those metrics with a companion as of metric. So for basic EPS, there's also a date field that corresponds to basic EPS called basic EPS as of, and that's the filing date, the date at which the information used for that metric was made public. In there's various. I encourage you, if you're interested in this topic, to familiarize yourself with how we're deriving these filing dates and these knowledge dates, or how we're deriving these knowledge dates based on the filing dates, based on the information that we get from Morningstar. And happy to take questions on that at a deeper level, either here or on offline mechanisms. There are some restrictions. We did get this out, but there are some other things that we're still working on, or some restrictions that you should be aware of as you're working with the fundamentals. First, we've got some security restrictions in terms of the SQL Alchemy methods that we're making available for use inside the IDE. Those methods are documented in our help docs. And if you have any questions or wish that something else would be whitelisted that is not currently whitelisted, just let us know and we'll look into it. Right now, the fundamental data is only available for use in the backtester. We have not yet done the work we need to do to surface it in our live trading environment or in our research environment, which is in alpha right now. But rest assured, that's something that we're definitely working on. That's high on our backlog, and we definitely want the fundamental data surfaced up there in those other environments. If you're a frequent user of Quantopian, you might be familiar with the history function. We don't yet provide an out-of-the-box history function similar to the pricing data. Again, that's something that's on our backlog, just not yet here when we launch fundamentals. In terms of resources, we've got lots of documentation that I spent some of my first works here at Quantopian writing. Our core help documents have fundamentals woven into them in the sort of base introductory paragraphs as we're introducing Quantopian, and we also have some specific sections in the core help documents for describing much of what I covered here today, both in the fundamentals section and in the sample algorithm section. We also have a nice introductory forum post with that sample algorithm as well that you can check out. And I mentioned before there are 670 different fields that over 670 different fields that we're surfacing. A full listing is at this link that you can get to through the help documents. Right now, that's just sort of a plain grouped listing of the field names that you'd otherwise get in the search capability inside the IDE. We're working now to get deeper and more descriptive explanations for each of those metrics as well. That's a work item that we hope to roll out in the next couple of days. Lastly, with the launch of fundamentals, we've got a promotion going on. We can't guarantee that we'll always be able to make this data free to use to the entire community. So with that in mind, we are saying that anyone who is a registered user by January 1st of Quantopian will have access to this data for at least 6 months. Furthermore, for folks who post for the 3 best algorithms posted to the forums before January 1st that make use of fundamentals in them, and hopefully you would tag these with hashtag fundamentals in the title. The best 3 algorithms, as judged by Justin Lent, our new director of the fund. Those 3 will get an extra 12 months of guaranteed access to fundamentals data. And with that, let's hit the question panel. So if you guys have any questions, Aaron asks, will you post the slides? Absolutely, we'll post the slides as soon as we can. We're also recording this as well. Any other questions? Oh, there we go. Here's one. Is it possible to run calculations in the filter? Interesting question, Joseph. I haven't tried it, so give it a shot. I would think that it's okay, that you could run some calculations. And I'm assuming you're saying inside that get fundamentals call inside the filter. I would guess that that's okay, but it's not something that I've tried before. But I imagine that would work. I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't work. Maybe simple arithmetic would work. It might not work if our whitelisting logic is going to block it. So I would give it a shot, and definitely let me know what you find out, Joseph. I'm interested to hear your experience. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will give you a few more minutes. Oh, give you a few more minutes to. Oh, holy cow! That was it just updated a lot all at once. Are there? So Kay asks, are there any future plans to incorporate data that is not from Morningstar? I'm thinking specifically of economic indicators. Absolutely. That's broadly the sort of the job at hand for me, beyond just fundamentals. I think my job at Quantopian is to make it a place where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of data sources that are available to you inside the IDE, inside our environment, that you can use in your backtesting research and live trading, and make it as easy as hopefully it seems this is. So make it very easy to access hundreds and hundreds of data sources. That's my goal. If you have if you have specific requests, I am all ears. My hope here is to, I've got some big ideas here that we're just getting started on here internally. Once we get fundamentals more fully fleshed out as a feature. What is the DB structure for fundamental data? Without getting too deeply into it, there is essentially 2 key tiers. We get data from Morningstar that is in sort of flat files, the standard flat files that they provide to their customers. We ingest them, put them in a database in a raw format, and then we reformat them to work well for the purpose of both the IDE and that query. So we flatten it out in an optimized manner for use by the runtime application, so that the field names are easily searchable, as you saw in the IDE. And then we also essentially are indexing it based on the knowledge date, so that in the back tester we can enforce the right access to it, the right access to the data on the right date to do that point in time. So we're essentially optimized for the database structure, without going into too deep of a detail, is optimized for the IDE and for enforcing the point in time logic in the back testing. Any other questions? I'll give it a few. I'll give it a few minutes and fill some time while I wait for go to webinar to refresh, since it seems to come up in batchiness. If you do, back to that sort of future plans question. If you have ideas, data sources that you'd love for us to incorporate, I'd love to hear from you. My email address is josh@quantopian.com, or you can private message me through the Quantopian platform as well if you'd like. And first name's Josh, last name is Payne. I'm on sort of a lot of these fundamental threads in the forums, and happy to hear from folks who are interested in data in ways that we can improve the product on that front. How long was development time from start to release of fundamental backtesting? Great question. I don't know the exact start date because the project predated my employment here. So it was definitely a long project. We did a lot of upfront investment to create that point in time database. Bigger than a breadbasket, I'll say. Do you use Renko charts? Unfortunately, I'm looking at Alyssa. I don't know what a Renko chart is. Some background on me is that I am more of a generic software industry product manager. I don't come to this job with explicit and specific finance or fintech industry experience. So I'm more of a web development product manager. So I'm not familiar with Renko. I suspect that it's something that I'm going to Google and learn about after this. Richard asks, what criteria are being used to pick the 3 best fundamentals algos? Great question. And I think generally we were looking for the most interesting algorithms. So there isn't sort of an explicit predefined heuristic. I think something that would catch our eye would be generally sort of most novel use of the data. That would be one avenue to pursue that I think would be interesting. The next would be maybe the most educational, one that really helps the rest of the community would be another great way to go about it and get our attention. A third way might be the use of fundamentals in an algorithm that exhibits some of the sort of behaviors or criteria that Justin has outlined in the criteria needed for the Quantopian Managers program. I think those are all reasonable paths. I think it's not a pure sort of best performing algorithm sort of contest though. Any other questions? You guys are great. This is fun. All right. It looks like we've reached the end of the questions, but I will say that I look forward to interacting with everybody more and more in the future. Hopefully, I can meet you at some of the stand-ups in person or correspond in the forums, and we'll love your continued feedback on fundamentals moving forward. So with that, I think